Hi, this video will be my testimony regarding the divine interventions I experienced in 2013. There were two Pacific ones, making three in all. My other one was on Christmas night of 2012. That video will be linked below, as well as other videos that will be related to this video. The purpose why I'm doing this is to be as clear as I possibly can to get the facts out, and I don't know if it really matters, but I've already put this information out, and I do feel that people could be seeing it in the wrong light, or I just wanted to make a very clear video. So with that being said, on September 6th, 2013, around this time, I experienced a divine intervention that lasted no more than 5 minutes, if not less. At that time, I was not yet officially saved by the Holy Spirit. I did not have Jesus Christ. And I was going through persecution in games with the CIA at the time. It got to the point where what started this event is they went into my home and rearranged things to torment me. And it was the first time I experienced anything like that. And that could really psychologically get to you. It's a very horrible and dangerous thing that is common within the persecution of throughout time. You can even find this in the Bible when Jesus speaks of the robbers that break in and stuff. He's specifically, I think one of the dimensions he's talking about are the quote-unquote gang stalkers, or those who persecute his children. That's a tactic that they do. And it's a tactic that has completely run my life. Anyway, so this is the first time I experienced that. It frustrated me, and I got really mad and upset, and I punched a hole in my wall. And this was at night, in the wee hours in the morning. I fell asleep. I fell asleep listening to my entire library of music, which at that time I had about 90 gigs of music, all different genres playing on shuffle. That was a favorite hobby of mine, back when I was still listening to secular music. And I fell asleep after I punched that hole in the wall. And I fell asleep for a couple hours. I woke up around 5 a.m. and I was laying in bed. This introduction to a folk concert came on. It was just the performer talking. I can't recall who it was. I can't recall the concert because I deleted the entire album after this event, because I just don't want to have anything to do. I just think that's the respectful thing to do, never to listen to this stuff again, really. It was just like a 30-second introduction, and the performer just said before he started his concert was, and this was the start of the divine intervention. He said, "There's a problem going on in our society with worship and with idols." Something along those lines. And then the next song came on shuffle, but except this time the song that came on was something I didn't recognize. It was a song that was clearly not human. I could just, of all different genres, and I think it was the Lord saying, yes, it's me. And after about 30 seconds of hearing this song, I realized, oh, this is the Lord. And I just shrieked with terror. And, you just petrify what's happening. Because I just felt like this music was kind of interdimensional. I could just picture swirling staircases and the sound of the piano. And it was more of a rock genre. It did kick in with a distorted guitar, but not an overly distorted guitar. It was kind of a lighter type of distortion. I don't know. I analyze music. I'm a musician, so I thought it was very brilliant because in something that you would think would be hard hitting as far as the song goes, the distortion was kind of light, but it still hit hard and made its exclamation, if that makes any sense. But anyway, it was sort of like a rock genre with a mix of piano and guitar and stuff like that. And it played for, I don't know, I'm going to say about a minute. This song played, and then the Lord spoke in an unknown male voice, and I will do my best to emulate it, impersonate it the best I can, in an unknown male voice, in an angry, nasty male voice. It said, "The problem is everybody wants to be their own damn teacher." And that's what the Lord said. And then I just will say that was the end of the intervention. Songs continued to play on shuffle from my standard secular library. I don't know. The next song that came on was March of the Pigs by 9 Inch Nails. That definitely did not help. How frightening, it's frightening when you have these experiences. And I don't know if that song has any significance. I don't think so. And then the next song that came on after that was Even in His Youth by Nirvana. And by the time that song came on, I shut the music off and I kind of just crawled in a fetal position in the bath and was healing from that event. So that was the divine intervention I experienced on September 6th, 2013. Now, of course, when these interventions happen, the date is obviously important. Since September 6th is not any kind of holiday, it's just some kind of random day. Obviously, we could discern the significance of this date through the numbers. And that's why I have done studies in this, in my understanding. And in my studies, I have found answers. People can accept or reject it. It's perfectly fine. I think you just have to meditate on it. If you're in this situation, how are you going to make sense of such an event? Obviously, you're going to look into the significance of the date that this happened. And the only way to do that is through the numbers. So, I have already explained these studies and my findings, and those videos will be linked below in a part 1 and a part 2. So, just to recap though, I have found that September 6th, this event is linked to the Mayan culture. It has a link to the Mayan culture, and my story has a link to the Mayan culture. The first supernatural, before the Lord officially intervened in my life on Christmas, I had an experience on September 21st, 2012. And I believe that was from the serpent and was a deception. And when you study the Mayan culture and stuff like that, I'm not saying they're evil, they're great people, it's not like that. But from my understanding, when you read it's from the serpent in the sky and all this kind of stuff, you could pretty much discern that it's a culture derived from the serpent from way back when. What makes the Mayan culture important, stand out, rather, as opposed to all the other cultures in the world? I don't have that answer. I don't know. I don't know what makes it significant. But all the other information I've found concerning this specific event that I experienced on September 6, 2013, I pretty much covered in the other videos that will be linked below. So you could hear the studies about the number 9, the number 6, and 13 and their relevance. And I do honestly believe, and I was prompted by the Holy Spirit, that I was generally correct in this information. I did make a video recently, you will find linked below, on how it could possibly link to this coming weekend, this coming Pentecost of 2019. I'm not saying anything's going to come to pass, I don't know, but I was just sharing information. So, I don't know, people can do and discern what they will with it. They could accept or reject anything they want, it's perfectly fine. So that was the experience I had on September 6th, 2013. I'm going to give my interpretation. Outside of the numbers, I just want to say, the Lord said, the problem is everybody wants to be their own damn teacher. Now, on the surface, it seems like God is just being nasty and just saying blah, blah, blah. But we all know the Lord is a lot higher than that and has a purpose for everything, for every little inch of movement he does. As you know, I think this was some type of reference to the end of our age. To the end of our age. 13 marking the number of rebellion. And as far as the Mayan calendar goes, if I remember correctly, the prophecies in the sixth temple were, or in the, I think the Mayan calendar ended on the 13th section. So our age ends in the 13th section, and the number 13 generally represents rebellion. The number 9, when we look from a biblical standpoint, generally represents divine completeness. The number 6 represents the flesh and the corruption of man. So you can see the other videos to get into this. September 6th, is also, according to the Julian calendar, the day of creation according to the Mayan culture. Okay, I've shared this in the other videos. All this information I've shared in the other videos linked below. Please see them for more on that topic. Before I close out on this, I just want to share, God is not mean and nasty. And I think God used the word damn, not to use foul language, but I think because it's another word for blasphemy. The problem is everybody wants to be their own damn teacher, because we are living in sin. We are living in our whole era, our whole age, and maybe the ages beyond, have been nothing but deceptive and blasphemous, handcrafted by Satan. And I think that was the point, is that people want to make their own blasphemous heresies and teachings and civilizations and social standards, etc. Does it... I also think God showing his what seemingly is nasty, I think that is just because we are in the flesh and we just have this tendency to this evil inclination of wrath and judgment and stuff like that. But I think this, in my opinion, this ushers in the goodness and kindness of the Lord that we will know in the future. That's just my opinion. So this is definitely stuff to meditate on. I don't claim to have all the answers. I certainly don't. But I felt it to be a responsibility because I put this information out already and I just wanted to be more clear as the best I possibly can. So, I think that generally concludes the divine intervention I experienced on September 6, 2013. This event can be found in the Gospel of Thomas, saying number 98. And I'm just going to leave it at that from my discernment. I experienced a third divine intervention. I did mention this in my first video, but maybe that video wasn't maybe the best. I didn't explain myself the best, but we suffer a lot of attacks from the enemy that most people can't conceive of. So, but anyway, I'm just gonna go through this again. I'm gonna repeat myself. I don't know the specific date this happened. I don't remember. I didn't mark it down. But sometime during 2013, only a month or two after the past, the one of September 6, 2013, I think October, November, I think in October, I think this happened in October or maybe in November. But I was sleeping, and I was sleeping to a college radio station nearby my house. Either Nassau Community College or Hofstra. I would switch, because back then I would listen to underground radio and stuff like that, folk music, whatever. And I fell asleep to that. And all of a sudden, of course, I'm being persecuted by the CIA. They could just do whatever they want with me, and I'm not going to get into that. Well, they drove by my house at like 4 a.m. and slammed on their car horn to wake me up, because apparently a divine intervention was happening that I was not aware of, and of course it was all my fault. Blame it on me, persecute me, everything was my fault. Come after me. That was the thing. So somebody drove past my window and slammed on their car horn to wake me up at 4 a.m, and lo and behold, there was some type of divine intervention happening that I was not aware of. So that gives me the discernment that I don't believe it was directed towards me. But I woke up to, it was a song, no words were spoken. It was very eerie. I believe this was taking place during some kind of underground heavy metal college program at 4 a.m. But anyway, I woke up and I heard the song was like a guitar like part, unlike, that was really inhuman, unlike anything I ever heard. And it did kind of remind me of like what the kind of stuff that Sonic Youth does, like alternate tunings, out of the box music, I'm not putting them on a pedestal. It's not like that at all. But if you're still into that kind of stuff, they were really brilliant in their time and from what they did, especially with guitars. And it was definitely out of the box, not mainstream at all. Yet mainstream at the same time, whatever. So anyway, it reminded me of something that Sonic Youth would do, but way beyond their capabilities. It was just an inhuman thing. It was very distorted guitar, very dark, and I just can't explain it. It was on its own tempo, And on top of that, and it was very dark and just, I don't want to say it was in the metal genre, it was in the grunge genre, like the underground grunge genre, if you grew up with that music. Just kind of dark and annoying and whatever. But it was inhuman. I just really can't describe it. And being a guitar player, I couldn't tell you the tuning, I couldn't tell you the chords. It was inhuman. But on top of this dark guitar part, was playing the Nirvana guitar riff, Come As You Are, directly from the studio recording. It was just that opening guitar part, da 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 da, and that's it. It wasn't the song, it was just that guitar part on top of this really dark, angry, distorted thing going on. And there were two completely different tempos going on at the same time, but somehow it made sense. It was an inhuman song. It was nothing any human could do. And no words were spoken, and that went on for like 5 minutes or so, from what I recall. And when that song ended, the radio host just, I'm sorry, you play a song like that, you're going to say something about that. And the radio host just said, well, that concludes our show, guys, and blah, 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 and closed out the show as if it never happened. And it's my discernment that there was some kind of interdimensional notion going on, that I don't think that radio host was aware that this was happening on his radio show. I don't know, but the significance of this divine intervention, I think, has interdimensional significance, which I don't have the answers to. And it happened sometime in October or November in 2013. And that's it. When it was over, the radio host show, I just acted like that never happened and just closed out the show. It was very weird. Maybe that was directed towards the enemy. I don't have the answers, but I will say that the CIA's behavior and what they were doing was definitely blasphemous and demonic, and they turned into anything, far worse than any person I've ever been, than any person I was being persecuted for, that's for sure. And I just, I've just seen that in my... I'm not going to get into this stuff. So, that's my little testimony. I don't know. It's what it is. I just hope this clears things up. And, okay, thank you for listening. God bless.